contractors, and subcontractors, affirmative action must be taken by covered employers to recruit and advance qualified minorities, women, persons with disabilities, and covered veterans. Affirmative action includes training programs, outreach efforts, and other positive steps. These procedures should be incorporated into the company's written personnel policies. Employers with written affirmative action plans must implement them, keep them on file, and update them annually. Affirmative action is a government program designed to redress historic injustices against specific groups by making special efforts to provide members of these groups with access to employment opportunities. Executive Order 11246 specifically requires federal contractors and subcontractors to put into place affirmative action plans. On September 24, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed Executive Order 11246. The order required federal departments and agencies to impose non-discrimination and affirmative action rules in all federal contracts and federally assisted construction projects. In addition, the EO created the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs as the administrative agency. Later, on October 5, 1978, President Jimmy Carter consolidated all affirmative action enforcement actions into the DOL by signing into law Executive Order 12086. The OFCCP is an agency within the U.S. Department of Labor today. OFCCP has a national network of 6 regional offices, each with district and area offices in major metropolitan cities. The OFCCP conducts compliance evaluations to determine whether a contractor is complying with its obligation to maintain non-discriminatory employment practices. The OFCCP also investigates complaints filed against a federal contractor that suggest discrimination against a group of individuals or discrimination that's systemic in nature. If the complaint alleges that a federal contractor discriminated against an individual, OFCCP will refer the complaint to the Equal Opportunity Commission for processing. The OFCCP encourages voluntary compliance and provides compliance assistance regarding the requirements of EEO laws and that apply to federal contracts and contractors. According to the OFCCP, affirmative action programs are not filed with the office. They are kept by the contractor and must be produced in case of an audit. A federal contract is any agreement between a department or agency of the federal government and any person for the purchase, sale, or use of goods and services. A federal subcontract is an agreement or agreement with a federal contractor, either 1, for furnishing supplies or services, or 2, under which any portion of the federal contractor's obligation under the contracts is performed, undertaken, or assumed. Thus, some, but not all contracts with the federal contractor will trigger coverage under the laws administered by the OFCCP. Courts may require employers to adopt affirmative action programs as a remedy for discrimination under Title VII. Some employers adopt voluntary affirmative action programs to remedy past adverse action against protected classes. For example, an employer may implement a program to encourage more women to apply for a job category traditionally dominated by men. However, any voluntary program must be narrowly tailored in time and scope so that it remedies only past discrimination. So, what are the objectives of affirmative action? First, to increase, through targeted recruitment, the utilization of minorities, women, and persons of disability in job classifications and EEO job categories where there's a lingering effect of past discrimination. Next, to correct, as necessary, employment practices that hamper equal employment opportunity by analyzing specific practices and implementing corrective action. Third, to strengthen accountability and evaluation by assisting major responsibility to agency heads and their designees. And fourth and finally, to promote support for equal employment opportunity and workforce diversity by providing training regardless of these topics and fair employment practices to employees, supervisors, managers, and executives. So, what is an affirmative action plan? According to the Society for Human Resource Management, an affirmative action plan is a set of goal-oriented management policies and procedures used to eliminate barriers to employment and increase retention of minorities, women, and other qualified and disabled persons that are not based on specific job requirements. An affirmative action plan ensures that all qualified applicants and employees are receiving equal opportunity for recruitment, selection, advancement, and every other privilege of employment. So in essence, an affirmative action plan requires an organization to conduct a utilization and availability analysis of the external and internal workforce, through that identify goals and timetables to remedy those goals, and develop and implement an action plan that reflects the spirit of those goals. An affirmative action plan typically includes these elements: a consolidated policy statement which covers equal employment opportunity, harassment, and non-discrimination against persons with disabilities or protected classes. Workforce analysis: information regarding the salary, job category, gender, and ethnicity of current incumbents as presented in analysis tables. Utilization analysis: based on that workforce and applicable data regarding qualified local populations, the affirmative action plan establishes hiring goals in categories where staff demographics is not representative of the available utilization in the labor market. Designation of responsibilities: this is where we identify and document all individuals that have a role in affirmative action processes. Problem area identifications are identified areas where we need to correct or change issues related to these goals. Goals and timetables are narrowly tailored objectives for hiring and promoting protected group members in EEO categories to correct the lingering effects of past discrimination. And finally, action programs provide measures to facilitate implementation of equal opportunity policy and affirmative action programs for women, men, minorities, and people with disabilities. Support for affirmative action includes these arguments: to reverse the negative effects caused by years of discrimination, to make sure minorities are represented at schools and in the workforce, to create an equal opportunity for everyone by helping those individuals with a disadvantage. Discrimination continues to deny opportunities to minorities and women to this day, so affirmative action is necessary. And diversity creates a better learning and work environment. Most supporters claim that affirmative action is never used to force a school or employer to choose an unqualified person. It's only used to help minorities and women when they're qualified. There are just as many arguments against affirmative action as there are in favor of it. Some examples include: reverse discrimination shouldn't be used to fix past discrimination. People should be chosen based on their merit and not by race or gender. Minorities and women from lower classes aren't helped by affirmative action, only those individuals from privileged backgrounds. Diversity of opinion isn't created by diversity of race or gender in the workplace. Affirmative action devalues the hard work of many minorities and women, and increases racial tension. Opponents claim that no one group should be favored over another group based on the sex or color of a person's skin.